This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski, coming to you from the COVID Palace. The Doc has left the Macaroon Mansion, and he's on the DSP compound. We'll say hi to him in a few moments. But this week on this show, we've got a ton to get to. We've got an update on a bunch of AEW contracts, what Bobby Lashley wanted on day one, but he didn't get it, as well as who may be making a return at the Royal Rumble and when we might be seeing some of these wrestlers who are out of action, as well as a massive lawsuit with WWE. Of course, we're going to take a look at the biggest topics and trends in wrestling. We've got people coming back. I hated stuff. It's going to be a great show. You're going to want to stick around. Doing it with me, as always, he's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Carrying the bloodline tradition strong, baby. You're at the COVID compound doing your thing, isolating. I gotta hold it strong. Day 1, day 2, day 365, day 10,000. I'm here, baby, ready to deliver. I'm the valet with the most, taking the least amount of bumps, the lowest work rate in the history of professional wrestling. I'm ready to do this thing. I can't wait, dude. It was a great week of wrestling. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And man, our wrestling group chat was on fire with everything going on with AEW, WWE, all the smack talk. I can't wait. What's on the agenda? What do you got? What do you want to bring to the table?
Well, there's a whole bunch to kick off with WWE. There's an absolute lot going on, especially with Monday Night Raw. I felt like SmackDown was a little bit of a letdown up until probably the final 5 or 10 minutes of SmackDown on Friday night. But let's jump right into Monday Night Raw. And I'm holding some apprehensions here. We've talked about Brock Lesnar. We've talked about Paul Heyman. We've talked about this angle with Roman Reigns. And we all seem to be really high on all of this. And I like this new version of Brock. I've hated Brock Lesnar forever and a day. I love Paul Heyman. I think Paul Heyman's great. I don't necessarily like Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman together. So I'm apprehensive about putting Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman back together on the same team. I like Brock coming out, showing personality, talking, being a little bit goofy, being able to carry his own with his own promos. I like having Paul Heyman as a side piece, right? Just kind of if it's an ice cream sundae, he's the whipped cream and the cherry on top. I don't need Paul Heyman to carry the load like he used to for Brock. Let Brock show some of this new personality. And if you're going to put Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman together, and it's going to go back to the old way where Paul Heyman was the advocate for Brock Lesnar and did all of the talking for Brock Lesnar, I don't want that. But if we get a nice mix of what we got this past Monday where Paul Heyman comes out, introduces Brock Lesnar grabs the mic and basically tells Paul Heyman what's up, and then cuts his own promo on Bobby Lashley, which we've got to talk about that promo with Bobby Lashley. I'm okay with it. Are you in the same boat as me where you're liking this new version of Brock Lesnar a little bit more than the old version? Or do you wish it would kind of go back to the old way where it was Paul Heyman who was very vocal and Brock Lesnar was more the guy who just stood around and danced in the back?
I like it. I think an over Brock Lesnar is something the company needs. I think that when you look at it, just the sheer difference of the fact that he's talking more, a little bit more into the character, maybe he's just kind of said, look, I've done this for so long. Now let me do whatever I want. You know, the knock-knock joke that he told Bobby was funny. I thought that, you know, the idea that he can play this individual that can say, I'm the best and I'm better than you, and at the same time tell jokes and be a little bit more lighthearted, I think that's more in line with the character that he is.
Does he seem more comfortable on the mic now than ever before?
Yeah, and I think the idea is this. When you have a rival company that's just really kind of letting wrestlers say what they want, I think Brock can feel comfortable just saying, look, give me the points and I'll say what I got to say. And I think WWE with certain stars will be comfortable to do that. Mm-hmm. Brock Lesnar, when you look at this point in time, he knows that he's the highest paid dude on the roster. He works the least. And so why not go out there and have fun? And it makes it a little bit more fun for the wrestlers too, to try and go out there and play off of that. So, and I think too, what always makes a feud awesome is when the characters really want to be feuding together. And what a perfect time for Lashley and Brock Lesnar to be feuding. So I know that it's, a little bit different because Paul Heyman kind of naturally is the heel valet, and, his gimmick is more to talk a little trash and things like that. I just think the natural relationship has been Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, but the couple-year stint with Roman Reigns kind of murkies the water a little bit, but it's back to normal, and it's back to the way it needs to be. I just loved it. I love the fact that Brock Lesnar's showing up on SmackDown as well to confront Roman Reigns. I think that's the way you want to play it. That's how you want to really have your stars go together and really not have it be so much of a brand split. I have no problems with it, but I can see those that do. But it can only be a plus moving forward to have Brock Lesnar. But the thing is, though, when you do this, he still needs his signature moment. You know what I mean? He needs something that resonates where you go, oh, he said that. In his career, I don't think he's had that signature statement that lends everybody to say, here I am, I'm Brock Lesnar. He needs that. And I don't know if he'll get it his way, but hell, it'll be fun to listen and see if he gets it.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets that. What I found to be really interesting was this face-off with Bobby Lashley. This is something that Bobby Lashley has wanted forever. This was in his contract. It was stipulated, when I come back, I have to face Brock Lesnar. And I think we all want to see this match. Like, this has the makings and this has the buildings to be a great match. I was trying to explain this to my girlfriend about why this match is so interesting and why it seems so important. And she just kind of was lost on her because her wrestling history goes back roughly 2 years. And she knows Bobby Lashley, or she knows Brock Lesnar from the UFC because she watched UFC, didn't really realize how long he's been in wrestling. She didn't really know Bobby Lashley was part of Bellator. She didn't understand all this. So I kind of tied it all together for how they were both fighters in the octagon, and how they're both wrestlers, and how they've never had a match together, a singles competition, and how this is kind of building towards that, and how this should be a really, really good match. I think we all agree Brock's going to probably win this thing, but it should be a really good match. And this is what Bobby Lashley wanted. I felt like Bobby Lashley was done so dirty in this promo with Brock Lesnar. Like, Brock Lesnar just filleted him. And like you said, when he told the joke, was knock, knock, who's there? Bobby. And it was Bobby who? And then he was like, exactly. Mic drop, walks out. Bobby Lashley strolled to the ring looking like $1 million, got into the ring looking like $1 million, tried to take off his glasses, couldn't get his glasses where he wanted. And to me, it just fell apart from there from Bobby Lashley. Go back, watch it. Bobby Lashley struggled to put his glasses away, and after that, he was all downhill. He was uncomfortable. He couldn't rebound, couldn't recover. And when you're in the ring with a guy like Brock Lesnar is going to – he's not going to make you pay, but he's going to feast. And you better bring your level up. And Bobby Lashley couldn't bring his level up. And I felt like Bobby Lashley kind of let himself down in this promo. I thought it was a great promo. I thought Brock was awesome. I thought it was really fun to watch these guys kind of go back and forth initially. And then Bobby Lashley got dusted. What were your thoughts on this promo? Because I thought this promo was one of the highlights of the evening on Monday Night Raw.
I'm definitely excited for the Royal Rumble. I can't wait to see it. I just hope that the WWE creative team pays it off. We don't want a wonky finish. We don't want a double count out, double DQ. We want to see Brock Lesnar pin Bobby Lashley, but to be physical and to be a match that lives up to the hype. Yeah, absolutely. I think that it was good. But yeah, Bobby Lashley, not really the best on the mic. And that's where you understand why he has MVP. And I think in this situation, somebody better tell creative, let MVP get in the mix here and create something to help Bobby Lashley stay in the mix here, because you're right. You keep getting filleted, it takes a little bit of steam away from the build-up for the match. So let MVP do his thing. That's what he's good at, talking a big game, and I think that MVP's got a couple locked away in the chamber that he can unload that would bring the house down. So that's kind of how I would go with it. A little bit less Bobby talking, a little bit more MVP. Yeah,
I agree with you. At this point, you really want to build this up. You want to make this feel more special. And I don't think at the end of it, we came away feeling like it's going to be more special, just because Bobby couldn't handle the promo, So you're right. Give it to MVP. Let MVP do the talking and save Bobby Lashley from Bobby Lashley. Now, something that happened that was really strange. We ended up with new tag team champions. The Alpha Academy ends up getting the belts off of arguably the one thing that has been carrying Monday Night Raw, and that's RK Bro. I think we're all shocked. I think we're all surprised that took place this Monday. And my question is why? Why give it away on a Monday Night Raw? Why not really build towards anything? Or at least it didn't feel like it built towards anything. It almost felt like this match was kind of put together, and then we didn't really have a ton of direction as to where we were going to go after this match. And I just don't understand why. If the main goal was to free up a guy like Matt Riddle, free up a guy like Randy Orton for the Royal Rumble, then okay, I guess. But you could have did that next week. You could have built towards this being a bigger deal. Instead, it seemed like it was a really impromptu match. We got it, belts changed, and everything's moving on. What was your thought on us getting new Raw Tag Team champs?
Yeah, I kind of felt like it was a big letdown because that's not the way you want to handle it. It was a big deal. I like how Otis and the way that tag team kind of said, "Hey, we just haven't been a tag team for the last 2 weeks. We've been thinking about this, training for this for many years." So I get it why you did it. Obviously, very, very much worthy of carrying the tag team titles. I thought it was great, but I think you could have did it at WrestleMania. Why do it on a Monday Night Raw when it could have been so much special, or even do it at the Royal Rumble? It's just 2 weeks away. Build it up a little bit. I just felt like you came to a crashing halt on a team that potentially could have even ascended further, and that's not the way you want to do it. You want to maximize the run by maybe getting one or two more feuds in there and then having the situation play out. So I was a little disappointed in the manner in which that shook out.
Yeah, me too. Now, overall, I thought SmackDown was pretty disappointing. I thought SmackDown was quite boring up until probably the last 5 or 10 minutes. I thought the back and forth between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and the video package that we got prior to was absolutely fantastic. I look forward to seeing this match. I think it's going to be great. Seth Rollins going in and basically saying, hey, every time we faced off one-on-one, I've got the better of you. Let's acknowledge it. You know how Roman Reigns has to be acknowledged. Stuck his fist in there for the Shield fist bump. Said, let's not. Okay, you don't want to acknowledge that. So he's playing off of things that Roman does, and I think it's great. You then bring in the Usos for a sneak attack from the back, and Seth Rollins completely eludes them. They go back after him. He eludes them again, slides into the ring, has a stare down with Roman Reigns, and then as they get back in the ring, he eludes them one more time. Seth Rollins right now, this crazy, deranged, maniac character that he's been building towards and trying to portray, I think it is coming full circle, and it looks outstanding, and it looks like it's going to be fantastic in this match against Roman Reigns. We've talked about it for a while, right? We haven't had really anybody to challenge Roman Reigns. Like there's nobody on his level, and they don't make anybody feel special enough to challenge Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins right now feels special enough to challenge Roman Reigns. I love the end of SmackDown. I thought it was the saving grace of SmackDown. If you could only watch anything, you've got 5, maybe 7 minutes. Watch the final 5 or 7 minutes of SmackDown. I thought it was fantastic. What did you think of the end of SmackDown?
At first, going into it, I thought, well, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, we've seen this before, but the way they did it, absolutely. With this new incarnation, both feel like a bigger deal at this point in time, right?
Yeah, they do. Both of them do.
Exactly. And so why not? And I really do love the addition of the Bloodline. I think that the Usos, we always joke about their ills, but man, they're a preeminent tag team. When they're out there, they were out there earlier in the show, when they're in the ring, you want to watch them. So I can't wait to see the inclusion. I hope it's a clean match. I hope it's a clean situation. But I like it because you're kind of continuing to tie into a story of the Shield minus the other guy who doesn't exist anymore. So I like it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I like it too. I can't wait to see it either. Now, some news broke earlier this week. Corey Graves has been cleared to wrestle. And my question is, why now? Originally, it was being reported that Corey Graves was cleared to wrestle back in 2020. He's been announcing since 2014. He had a bad head and neck injury, and that's what forced him to basically leave NXT and then take the announcing position with WWE. And arguably, he is one of the best announcers on WWE. I think it probably goes Pat McAfee, and then it goes Corey Graves as far as entertainment and just giving you your bang for your buck when you're watching the wrestling program. But why now? Why now? Why? January of 2022, basically 2 years later, is Corey Graves possibly going to be allowed to wrestle again? And I ask you that because in my head, again, WWE loves the Royal Rumble. It's part of the history, it's part of the lineage of WWE. And they seem to be finding themselves in a weird situation where they're just short on wrestlers. So does Corey Graves get to come back just to wrestle in the Royal Rumble? In news and notes, we've got a wrestler who's coming back who hasn't wrestled in years, and she'll probably be back in the Royal Rumble because they need to fill out the ladies' side. So does Corey Graves come back to fill out the men's side of the Royal Rumble? Is that why this is getting announced now?
Yeah, it's look, with the advancements, right? With taking that much time off, I think that there are certain levels of what a performer can do. Now, can he perform at the level of a Seth Rollins where he's there day in, day out, week in, week out? No. Can he have a schedule like now that's been kind of put together by a lot of AEW superstars where you maybe work once every couple months? Why not? I think nowadays people can work safer. I think that you can take way less bumps to the head. Look, you're not going to take 15 chair shots. You're not going to do Huracan Ranas. You're not going to be getting pile driven. I think that if you can work safely, if you can show that you can train and get out there, why not take advantage of it? I think that the itch to wrestle, I mean, look, we're doing a wrestling podcast. You don't think you and I would love the opportunity just one time to have our music blaring and just to run down the ring and act a fool? It's addicting. It's fun. I mean, just the other day, I fired up the Bluetooth and played Seth Rollins music and wilded out with my kids. And it's fun. It's just really something that once you get into, I can imagine. That's why Ric Flair wrestled until he was 70. Terry Funk couldn't let it go. There's something about the crowd when they scream and yell your name. And plus, when you go out not on your own terms, it has to eat at you. So even if it's just a one-match deal, a one-off where he gets to kind of go out on his own term, nobody wants to go out like that, where someone says you can't do it. So if you can go out with one more match, one more moment, couple moves here and there, and you're safe, then I think what's changing is the idea that somebody can wrestle 5 days a week for 20 years. It's just not going to happen. It's not sustainable. Wrestlers are going to ask for, probably in lieu of money. Look, what's the difference really in bottom line? If you're smart with your money, what's the difference between $2 million and $5 million? Just give me $2 million a year and give me 30 less matches a year and I'll be happy. So I think that's where it's got to go with the likes of a Corey Graves, Edge, Miz as he gets older, AJ Styles. Just let me extend my career another 5 years by not having me wrestle, 400 times in a year. Let me just wrestle 50 to 70 matches a year. I'll be happy, less house shows. And for Corey Graves, shoot, if he gets 10 matches a year, he'll be happy for the next 10 years.
Yeah, no, you're right. If he does get another couple years, he'll be happy. It's weird because I feel like a lot of this has started because of a guy like Bryan Danielson. I feel like Bryan Danielson fighting so hard for so long to get back and to come back to WWE, then to go to AEW. I really felt like that broke down and opened a lot of doors because it was Bryan Danielson who then gets approved to go wrestle, and he had a bad head and neck injury. And now it's a guy like Corey Graves, same deal, bad head and neck injury. And you're seeing a lot of these guys, Edge was in the mix with all of that, with a bad head and neck injury. And they're able to come back now and they're able to have these sustainable careers. And you're right. You can't do this for 300 days plus out of the year. You just can't. Like physically, your body can't take those types of bumps. And doing a more limited schedule and being able to negotiate that limited schedule, I think WWE realizes we can't run these guys through the ringer like this anymore. And you've got such a big roster, there's no need to do it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think this is a lot of, we need guys for the Royal Rumble. This would be a great way to get him involved in the Royal Rumble, to kind of bring him back. And then, like you said, doing a couple one-offs. I was thinking almost he could be like Jerry the King was. Jerry the King would get in the ring, would take a couple bumps, would wrestle around every now and then. They'd work him into a story. But Jerry the King was not a full-time wrestler. So maybe they do the same thing with Corey Graves. We'll see what happens. He's much younger than Jerry the King is, though. So we'll see what happens there. Now let's touch on Impact. A lot of stuff going on with Impact. I wanted to know what you made of Tommy Dreamer announcing that he reached out to Steven Regal for a role in Impact. And if Steven Regal was to take that role in Impact, what would that mean for Impact Wrestling overall?
The vast experience. When that was announced, I think that everybody was kind of shocked, but I kind of took the tone of like, well, maybe it was mutual at the same time. But any situation that, I believe that William Regal will be involved in is only going to get better. And of course, Tommy Dreamer's smart. This is a wise grizzly veteran. He understands that Impact is at this delicate spot where there's a lot of talent that could benefit from the likes of William Regal, like a Deonna Purrazzo, the women's division. You got Moose. Oh, my God. You don't think that Moose, William Morrissey, could benefit from the likes of having that much experience. You got to remember that Regal was part of WCW in the heyday, has seen the ups, seen the downs, seen basically this new era of WWE with NXT and how you can potentially build companies, build stars. He's worked in so many meetings, so many creative pitches. He's probably turned down so many bad ideas than the good ones that have been created at Impact. So I cannot fault Tommy Dreamer for reaching out. I think that's smart. And William Regal should kind of keep it open, maybe just kind of be that consultant that maybe works at both companies, AEW and Impact, where you get to kind of go back and forth, share your wisdom, share your ideas, not be locked down. But bottom line, William Regal's not going to be long for unemployment. That's for sure. When you got that much experience in the wrestling game, it's invaluable. A company wants to tap into that so that they can facilitate a company moving forward. The knowledge is invaluable. And you got to remember, Dean Malenko, you got Arn Anderson, you got, so much experience previously with Jake the Snake Roberts. You got so much experience that's being passed down that these wrestlers, even Christian Cage and Matt Hardy, working with the likes of the young talent is only going to make the wrestling business better in terms of how to sell, psychology, how to build your character, how to build a match. So this is great. And so for William Regal, I hope he takes up the offer and helps Impact out because they're doing some good stuff and they're making some news, making some waves.
Yeah, I think so too. And look, I think it'd be great. Just the wealth of knowledge, the ability to communicate with wrestlers and really help develop and build wrestlers. Like we talked about last week on the show, a lot of the guys that you get from NXT that are on the WWE main roster, a lot of the guys who are still on the NXT roster, and a lot of the guys who are in AEW all have been touched by the hand of Steven Regal, and it's like the Midas touch. It's just it's golden. So it would be great for a lot of guys in Impact to get that. I don't necessarily want your review of Impact. I thought Impact was a good show, but what I want to talk about is the main event, the big match, the one that has been talked about basically since Thursday night. Deonna Purrazzo takes on Roxy, both belts on the line, the Impact Women's World Championship and the ROH Women's World Championship, and kind of the fallout at the very, very end. This was a great match. This was a fantastic match. It got me to tune in. I watched. I thought it was awesome. Thought it was brilliant, actually. Roxy has a huge, huge career in front of her, extremely young. She was fantastic. Deonna Purrazzo is one of the best women that WWE basically shit on her chest and sent her out the door with a pink slip. Deonna Purrazzo is absolutely fantastic, and she does a great job working with Impact, does a great job working with some of the ROH talent. What did you make of this main event, and what did you make of how it ended?
Ooh, yeah, ROH invaders, huh? This is what we're doing. And that's the best way to take advantage of a company going out is that, maybe some of the high end will go to AEW, but oh my God, I thought maybe potentially Impact made a mistake by having Purrazzo lose at the pay-per-view, but they rebounded quickly with this match. Oh my God. It was something where what have we talked about lately in WWE, and is that the women kind of have felt like they've taken a step back. This was a winner-take-all match, champion versus champion, and Roxy just held her own. And I just felt like, you have to give him credit for the psychology of the match. You have to give him credit for going all out and really taking the ball when it was given to him. Man, it just stinks too because Ring of Honor kind of, really struggled because of the pandemic and what happened. But hey, it's all good. It was all good. I think when we're talking about it as one of the sole topics here at Impact, when you have Moose, the champion, when you have William Morrissey doing his thing, opening a show early in the show and doing his thing, when you have so much going on at Impact that's positive, Morrissey calling out Moose I thought was awesome in that show. When you have a great match like Laredo Kid and Chris Bay and all the good stuff that's happening, the momentum that's being built, the Masha Slamovich versus Vert Vixen match held its own, and I thought deserved credit as well. I just think that right now Impact is right at that delicate point where if you put together quality storylines, and this is, like you said, something that you can build upon, something that you can go, wow, what's going to happen now? This is going to be a preeminent storyline moving forward, and it involves women. And Deonna Purrazzo, I think with this opportunity that she has, is going to do wonders with her opportunity. And what a perfect opportunity. Superb match, hot angle, everything worked together perfectly. And remember, main event time. So when you get the opportunity to hold your own and that's the spotlight, they kicked ass, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was absolutely awesome. The way she ends up winning the title. She does the Venus de Milo or the Venus flytrap, and it looks like she's absolutely about to break Roxy's arms off at the shoulder. It was so intense. Roxy had no chance but to tap. And then afterwards, Maria Kanellis, who forgot she was even doing wrestling, comes into the ring and gets in her face, only to have guys like Matt Taven come down, who are part of that ROH history, and ends up jumping everybody in the ring, and it just kind of spills over. I thought this was a great way to set up a future storyline. I thought this was a great way to really put the women on the map and let them run with the ball, and they didn't drop it. We talk about AEW not really portraying women enough. For sure, we talk about WWE not doing a good enough job with the ladies. Impact did a fantastic job. I thought it was great. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was awesome. All right, now AEW. Let's transition hard here because what we got last Saturday, I thought sucked. And we come on here and we gloss up AEW a lot. We talk about how great AEW is. And when they do things that aren't great or they do things that aren't up to the standard, it's our job to call them out. I absolutely hated Battle of the Belts. I thought Battle of the Belts sucked. I thought it was a waste of my time. I thought it was a waste of programming. I thought this was confusing and convoluted from the beginning. When this was originally announced months ago, I believe this was initially announced as a pay-per-view, and then it got changed to something that was going on TNT, and then it was going to be an hour long on TNT. And basically what you got Rampage on a Saturday night, but there were belts involved. And for me, it drove me absolutely crazy. I hated it. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was a little bit confusing. I thought it was just disjointed. I didn't like what we got. It didn't help solidify anything. Cool. You're gonna have Dustin take on Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara is gonna be your interim TNT champion. Why do we even have to have an interim TNT champion? Cody's got COVID. Just let him sit on the side. He'll come back in 2 weeks and we'll be good to go.
Just cancel.
What are we doing? None of this
right.
made sense. It was so bad. I thought it was absolutely awful. Did you enjoy Battle of the Belts, or did you think it was a dumpster fire too?
Absolutely. It was worse than a WCW Saturday night. I was like, what the? Yeah. I mean, look, I think you can give Dustin Rhodes credit. Great. He's still doing his thing. Put on a nice match.
He had a good match, but I just thought overall it was a bad story.
Bad story, yeah. It was unnecessary. It was disappointing, and I just think that sometimes you just have to just scrap what you got to do and just put on something else. And they failed to do that. I was disappointed as well. I
didn't get it. Now, look, they rebounded because what we got on Wednesday night was absolutely fantastic. I think you made a star on Wednesday night. The Wardlow CM Punk match was absolutely fantastic. And they've done such a great job building Wardlow. Wardlow is now interesting to me. And what they ended up doing on Friday night's Rampage with Wardlow, I thought was just, again, stacking Lego blocks and building this guy. Wardlow is going to be a superstar. And the match with CM Punk helped solidify it. He ends up going out there and he demolishes CM Punk. And they're building this friction between him and MJF, and we're waiting for him to turn on MJF. And he just kills CM Punk, only for MJF to get in the mix right as he was getting the 1, 2, 3. And MJF's like, no, I want more pain for him. So Wardlow ends up beating him up some more, only to get rolled up on and to lose the match. But it sets the stage for what's going to happen with him and MJF. Now you fast forward to what took place on Friday with Rampage, and you've got Shawn Spears, who basically cut down Wardlow. You can see Wardlow in the background. Wardlow's a big freaking dude, man. Like, he's massive. Ends up cutting Wardlow down and taking a couple shots at him, basically telling everybody that he's a newbie with one move, and Shawn Spears isn't that guy. And you can see the division starting to happen within CM Punk's, or within MJF's group and his faction, and Wardlow's going to be the first piece to end up leaving and turning on MJF. I thought this match was fantastic. Like I said, I believe you now have a star made with Wardlow, and the crowd is so behind him. When he came out with Shawn Spears on Friday night's Dynamite, or on AEW Rampage, the whole crowd was chanting his name. I loved this match. I thought this was the best match of the night. I thought this was the best match of the week. I thought this was fantastic. You have a star in the making. What did you make of Wardlow CM Punk?
Absolutely. That's why the benefit of having CM Punk in your lineup, in your crew, you can create great storylines. And I think the anticipation was that Wardlow was going to do something to MJF, and the crowd wanted it, didn't deliver it, didn't pay it off just yet. But I like the idea of the chairman trying to tame this out-of-control dude. But that's the best way to kick off a star, is to have him kind of be the guy that's been taken advantage of. Age-old adage, how do you build a star? Get people emotionally invested. I care, you care. Wardlow is on his way. And I thought he, in the match, held his own with CM Punk. Just real quickly before we moved on, what do you make of CM Punk's first half dozen matches or so? Not the same in regards to the in-ring stuff, maybe a half a step slow, but in terms of psychology, he still got it. It's just, I think right now he's still riding the wave of momentum of CM Punk. I'm not seeing the in-ring stuff yet that maybe it's just in my mind, this is the greatest wrestler of all time. You're not seeing it yet at the speed and level that I think I'm expecting.
So I agree with you, but I think that's part of the story that's being told. I think what you're seeing here, if you listen to the promos that MJF has been cutting, and you listen to what Shawn Spears said on Friday night's Rampage, they have come out and they basically have said, you're not the same guy. And we're going to show everybody that you're a fraud and you're not the same guy. So I think what you're seeing in these matches and what you're seeing with the wrestling is he's living up to that. He's showing that he is not the same guy that he used to be. That 7 years off has taken a bit of a toll on him. And 7 years off has basically slowed him down a little bit. And he's not the same guy. And I think what will end up happening is when he finally gets into the ring with MJF, there'll be a switch that gets flipped. And you'll see some of the same guy that he used to be. But I think until then, this is the story that they're telling you, that CM Punk is not what CM Punk used to be. And it's what they want you to believe, is that he is not the same man that he once was. So I think it's an interesting story. Again, it's all about psychology. And I think what they're doing is they're laying the groundwork for a really interesting story. And maybe they haven't done a great job of bringing that story to the forefront, right? Making it as known as it should be. But go back, and if you were to listen to a couple of the promos that MJF cut, he basically has said, you're not the same dude, I'm going to prove it. And then you listen to what Shawn Spears said on AEW Rampage on Friday night. He basically said, I know you're a fraud. You're not that same man. So this is where they're going with it. So just give it time. And I think what you'll end up seeing is, whether it's at a pay-per-view, or as WWE likes to call them, live premium events, or whether it's at a Dynamite or whatever it may be. Next time you see CM Punk, you see MJF in the ring together, there'll be a switch that's flipped, and you'll get some old CM Punk. Speaking of AEW Rampage, I just find it lacking. And I know last night we had a long conversation in our group chat about what could fix AEW Rampage, because I watch it. I enjoy that it's an hour. It is a very quick hour. I just always feel like there's part of a story missing. I always feel like there's just not enough there. There's not enough depth, I think. And I don't want this to be like Monday Night Raw, where they're like, okay, 3 hours is what you get, and 3 hours is way too long. And sometimes 2 hours is way too long. But I don't know if another hour makes it better, because you can build storylines out. Sometimes I just feel like it maybe runs a little bit too fast, and you're not really getting the build for some of the stories. You're getting a lot of really great wrestling. There were some good matches on, and like I said, I enjoy it, but I always find it to be lacking, and I'm not sure what it's missing. Am I the only one here? Like, do you agree with me that there's something missing from Rampage, or do you like the way it's currently set up?
I DVR it. With the new crib, I got the super bundle with the DVR package where I could tape 1,000 things where I was limited before. So I DVR it. It doesn't even hit my live radar, and I agree. It's just, I get what Kenny was saying in regards to just an extension of
Dynamite.
Yeah, Dynamite. But I don't find it to be something I have to watch. I can read up on it. It's kind of like where they put like the B- stars, and sometimes, obviously with Adam Cole and stuff like that, they're putting on a little bit more in regards to having CM Punk show up there, but it's not something you have to see. So if you like it, if you like the way in which the stars are being utilized there, fine, enjoy it, take it in. It doesn't hit my live radar. It's just too much. I mean, Friday night, 10 o'clock, I would say the best thing to do would be to put it on Saturday night at 6, kind of that's the WCW old field, kind of get people back into that groove. Friday night at 10, you got to remember, if you're working hard, by that time, you might have done something with your family. You might have done something with your significant other. Adam is locked out for 10 days, so he has more time. But for me, by 10 o'clock, I'm almost ready to hit the bed. So I can't even last. Like, you guys were going full tower at 10 o'clock. I'm like, shit. To be honest, you guys started talking about the show, and I'm like, oh, shit, yeah, the show's on. I was like, oh, but I'll go back and watch it, with the advent of the ability to skip through some things. But yeah, it's not enough yet to where it's going to get my attention to say, oh my God, 10 o'clock Friday night, stick with it. It's just, I can't hang that late. So I agree with you. I think that they got to do a little bit more, maybe make it 2 hours, maybe make it a further show so that we can get into it. But it's just, by that point, a lot of wrestling for everybody involved. And really what it is, it's just a glorified house show that gets an hour televised. It's kind of how I look at it.
I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Yep. It's a house show with an hour of it getting televised. We'll see how it goes forward. Look, Tony Khan is not hurting for content. He's not hurting. I think he's making a lot of press. When you have a debut of an AEW, when you have a debut of a Ring of Honor star, everybody's happy. A lot of good waves are being made, but you're starting to see a little bit of cracks just because of the sheer fact that when you put on content 52 weeks a year, there's so much out there that we expect a high level, and you just can't deliver each and every week with each and every show. So just look at it for what it is. Appreciate Adam Cole, baby. Appreciate the tag champs when they get a chance to. And maybe take what Kenny said to heart. It's just, put it on the back burner and hit Rampage super duper hard. All right, cuz, hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list? What's hot this week in wrestling?
A lot to get to this week. There's a ton. And we teased it earlier. MLW, or Major League Wrestling, has taken legal action against the WWE. On January 11th, MLW filed a lawsuit against WWE based on alleged ongoing attempts to undermine competition and monopolize the professional wrestling market by interfering with MLW's contracts and business prospects. Now, MLW is ran by a former WWE writer, so they have intimate knowledge of how WWE does things. MLW cited that WWE pressured third parties to abandon contracts and prospective relationships with MLW, while WWE's misconduct included disrupting every level of MLW's business, including a major streaming deal for MLW, which would have been transformative for the company. Now, MLW specifically cites a deal with Vice TV as well as Tubi TV And again, Tubi's a free streaming service that's basically on every platform you can get, that Vince McMahon personally interfered with, as well as trying to steal talent and mess with MLW wrestlers' contracts. So there's a whole lot there. This has to be watched. WWE came out and said none of this stuff is founded and it's baseless. But it looks like there is a lot here for MLW. And WWE's got more money, so we'll see what their lawyers get, but it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. Now, former WWE star Charlie Haas made a shocking return to the ring at Impact Wrestling's tapings this week, taking on Josh Alexander in his first match for the promotion. While it was a great moment for Haas and fans were thrilled to see him back in the ring, the night didn't go as planned, as Haas was stretchered to the back after the match, having been knocked, as they say, loopy during the bout. Reports are he's okay, and it wasn't as seriously as they originally thought, but a scary moment nonetheless. Now, Bayley may be back sooner than later. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the expectation is that Bayley could return to action as early as February, although it's considered more likely that her in-ring return will occur in March. Bayley had surgery to repair a torn ACL in mid-July and was given a 9-month timetable to return. The 9-month timetable would have her put back on track to return in mid-April, resulting in her missing WrestleMania in Arlington, Texas on April 2nd and 3rd, because we're doing a double-nighter. If Bayley returns ahead of schedule in February or March instead, it will open up the possibility of her competing on the WrestleMania card. So interesting there. Now, somebody else who may be back in the fold, Paige may also be back. WWE is stretching for women for the Royal Rumble, and Paige may be called upon to join the match. Obviously a crowd favorite, and this is a spot where she doesn't have to do a ton of work and could be protected. If this were to happen, it would be the first time since December 26th of 2017 that she has competed in a WWE ring. Paige previously had her in-ring career cut short following a debilitating neck injury that led to a scary in-ring moment and ultimately forced her to retire. Now, some news on Bobby Lashley with Day One. Bobby Lashley wanted no part of Day One when he found out Brock Lesnar was going to be added to the match. During an appearance on WWE After the Bell, Lashley said, "The first thing I said was, get me out of the match. I said it's a fatal four-way. Me and MVP can do something beforehand. Get me out of the match." Initially, people were like, "What? Are you scared of him?" No, I'm not scared of him. It's a match where exactly what happened. He beat somebody else and got the title. So essentially he can say he beat me, Seth Rollins, Big E, Kevin Owens, right? I mean, the match is 5 people. And I was like, that's not the way this is going down. Get me out of the match. And they were like, nah, you got to stay in the match. And I was like, all right. So Bobby Lashley wanted out of the match, told people he wanted out of the match. Doesn't sound like he really put up a big fight though. Kind of weird, because there's no way in hell if I want out that match, I'm going to go and compete in that match. We'll get something else figured out. Now, some updates on some AEW contracts. Lots of news here. Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, recently confirmed that they have signed new AEW contracts. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was noted that the original 3-year deals offered during the early days of AEW would have recently expired. This suggests that the stars who initially had 3-year contracts but are still with AEW are working under a new agreement. Names that originally received 3-year deals include Brandy Rhodes, Adam Page, Chris Jericho, as well as the Young Bucks, who have opted for a 2-year rollover, and Cody Rhodes. It was also noted that the contracts of Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky would be up in the next few weeks. Baker notably announced that she had re-signed a multi-year deal with AEW in September. Following speculation about Kenny Omega's contract status, the report stated that Omega originally signed a 4-year deal, so he wouldn't necessarily have to re-sign until February of next year, when his contract is set to expire. Now, it has also been reported that Tony Schiavone has agreed to a contract extension with AEW as well. Tony Schiavone does a ton of great content for them. And that, my friends, is it for this week's jam-packed wrestling news and notes.
Absolutely jam-packed. Make sure to follow Adam at Adam R STROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure that you download each and every week as possible. Anywhere that you listen to your favorite broadcast, type in Detroit Sports Podcast and our content will find you.
Real quick. Some breaking news. Looks like Jon Moxley's return is set for January 23rd at GCW. So if you are an Impact fan, you might be able to see him on January 26th. So Jon Moxley will be coming to the ring. And another tidbit, Lita was actually, AEW was in contract talks with Lita to bring her in for a program with Britt Baker back in 2021, right around the time of All Out. It fell through for some reason. I just want to get those last two in there. These were things I was working on before we started the show. So just to put those out there. So Wrestling News and Notes is now over. My bad. I'm sorry.
Jam-packed. Woo.
Jam-packed.
All right, cuz. Look forward to next week's show. Can't wait to talk to you, breaking down all things in the world of professional wrestling. Talk soon.